Welcome back. Okay, today I want to talk about a pain-free return to running. And I'm 8 months into my return to running after a 10-year break. It's going well, and I think there's some lessons that you can apply in your own training that might help you with your own running. So in that 10-year break, I had two false starts where I tried to come back and didn't make it. I had lower leg issues, tendon, muscle, and stuff, and I was just chronically injured, and it wasn't much fun. So I was like, you know what, this isn't much fun. I'm just going to give it up. But I'm glad I tried one more time with the help of my coach, and it's kind of ironic to me that it took a Swedish speed skating coach to get me back and give me some things to apply in my own training. I'm going to pass those on to you. So first thing, everybody always talks about a slow ramp in volume, but what actually is a slow ramp? So my first run was July 1st, so I've put together some stats for you about everything I've done. So my weekly duration across the period, started July to the end of Feb, is 2.5 hours of running. And that's on average. And you can see there's a lot of weeks that are less. There's a few weeks that are higher. That includes some hikes that I did. I'm not really hiking much anymore, but last summer my son likes to hike, so there's a couple of hikes in there. And then my distance, my average weekly distance is 22K across that period. And what you'll see with the year, this new year, in the new year, is I'm starting to increase the distance a bit. And last week was my highest week so far. It was 45K within the week. So if we take the total time a week, which is 150 minutes, and we divide it by the K, which is 22, you'll see my average pace is about 6 minutes and 49 seconds a K. So I'm doing a lot of slow running. Now, mixed in with this information is I start every walk with a 10-minute power walk segment, every run. So every run I do starts with 10 minutes of running, and that's just to ease my body into it and also wake up the muscles and tendons. My background being biomechanically limited and having this chronic injury history through my 40s, I found it really helps me. Now, with this slow ramp, I've been at my biomechanic limit pretty much the whole time. So if I did any more running, I'm pretty sure I would have given myself an injury at some point over the last 8 months. But by not running back-to-back days, and by not really pushing my limits, trying to do a whole bunch of fast stuff, time trials, races, I'm able to keep running week in, week out at this lower level. And I've avoided setbacks, and it lets me keep my gains compounding. Now, the purpose, one of the things is I do a lot of easy running. And how easy? Well, 70% of my training has been in heart rate zone 1. So that's really easy. That's about as easy as I can go. And if we add that zone 2 segment in the bar here that you see, then 88% has been zone 1 and zone 2. So I'm not doing a whole bunch of fast stuff. I tried a little bit of sprinting, but my calves weren't liking it. And with my motto, just stay healthy, don't get hurt, let the gains compound, I stopped the sprinting while I let my body kind of develop. And I would like to bring it back and bring back some quicker stuff, but I'm going to wait until I feel like my body's ready for it. So, first thing I wanted to do was build my capacity to run easy. And by easy, I mean to be able to run without my lactate spiking up. One of the things I found with my early lactate test was as soon as I made the transition from walking to jogging, my lactate would pop by about 0.6 millimoles. So I would go basically out of my zone 2. I didn't have a zone 2 running. So all my running, even though my heart rate was down, internally, metabolically, was quite stressful on my body. So I did a lot of slow running, hence my slow average pace. I would never run through tightness. I'd shut it down, walk home. And I use the treadmill a lot to take away the friction, so I'm not tempted to run back to the car or home or wherever I started my run. I just get off the treadmill. And so with this limiter, this volume limiter, I wasn't able to do that much running. So we talked about 2.5 hours of running. But on my site, you'll see I wrote an article called Using the Bike to Develop Metabolic Fitness. So this metabolic limiter I had with my running, I was addressing through cycling. So although I was only doing 2.5 hours of running a week, I've been doing 14 hours of training a week. And the compound effect of all that aerobic training, swim, bike, and run, and this is the pie chart of what I've been doing. This other slice is mainly skinning and a little bit of downhill skiing. So it's winter sports. That's my swim slice there, and my run slice is my second largest slice, but the biggest thing is my bike slice. That's where I've been developing myself metabolically, been developing my fitness. The other concept I brought in when I was managing niggles is I asked myself, what's the minimum effective dose? So the minimum effective dose for me is 5K worth of running at any speed. I figured that would give me enough impact forces. It would give me enough movement training. And if I did that 3 times a week, so 15K worth of running a week, I would get something from that. So when I had some niggles in my calves, my hamstring was acting up, I found I could still run easy on the treadmill, and things would be settling down and not getting worse. And what I told myself with the minimum effective dose was it was just duration and impact forces. I didn't care about the pace. I was just training my legs to handle running and training my legs to get more efficient at running. This kept me healthy, let me train through the niggles, like I said. The other thing I brought in was mobility work. 10 minutes every single day minimum. And there's an article on my site called A Pain-Free Return to Running, and that shows a short mobility thing. Takes a couple minutes that you can do. You add a few other stretches, a couch stretch the front of your hip on both sides, and that'll give you 10 minutes that you can do every day in your program. I'll link that up in the comments for you so you can find it easily. Now, a bit about my biomechanical limiters, because at first I thought the issue was a strength issue with everything. So my calves and my hamstrings were acting up, and it turns out my calves were limited by strength and recruitment, the ability just to handle the forces when I'm towing off. That was an easy fix. Some seated calf raises. I do them twice a week. Up with 2, slow lower on 1 at the beginning, get that eccentric load right into the calf, and it cleared up pretty quickly. But my hamstrings weren't clearing up, and I was doing my mobility work, but I wasn't doing much low back work, and I wasn't doing much through my entire posterior chain. And what I found was the hamstrings weren't improving, even though my leg strength was greatly improved. And so thinking about it, I was like, okay, well, I know that yoga's worked for me in the past, and over the last 5 weeks, I brought yoga in, and the relief has been quick. 3 weeks, and my hamstrings noticeably settled down. And so that's something to consider in your own program. If you have an issue with your biomechanics, is it a strength limiter? Is it a load limiter? In other words, you're giving yourself too much load too often? Or is it a range of motion limiter? And you can address that with yoga. Usually it's a little bit of all three. Now, what the slow ramp gives you, this gradual ramp that you can see I did, is it gives you time. It gives you time to address these limiters without anything progressing to the point of injury where you need to stop exercising. So I've been my very consistent 14 hours a week is just compounding up, and I'm seeing the gains come through. But I didn't see much in the way of gains come through in the first 5 or 6 months. I was dealing with these little injuries. My body's getting used to exercising again. So you're going to need to be patient with your time horizon. and just work through that. Final point, where you're having a niggle, also work on the area above and below. That's my last point there about above and below. So with my hamstrings, above the hamstring, below the hamstring, think about what's going on with the low back. So that's why the yoga is a good practice, because it's a whole body practice. I'm doing beginner yoga, lots of floor work, so I'm on the ground. It's not making me more tired, so the energy that I have is going into my strength and endurance training. It's not going into trying to become better at yoga. I'm using the yoga to try and make me a better athlete. So I hope this helps. Good luck with your own running. And if you got any questions, hit me up in the comments or over on Twitter. Thanks.